Welcome to Nadir Audio. Today we're going to be doing a State of the Stereo video for 2024. This has actually been a really big year for the channel. We exceeded 1,000 subscribers this year, so thank you very much to everyone who has subscribed and watched the videos. But for now, let's go ahead and get started and see what's changed in the system over the last year. So we'll start out in the top middle with one of the centerpieces of my system, which is my Reisong A10 integrated tube amplifier. So I did the initial review on this about 4 years ago, but I did finally get around this year to doing a tube rolling video. So I'll include a link to that in the description below. But I went through a bunch of different power tubes and another set of preamp tubes and found a few I really liked, including these Mullard EL34 power tubes that I'm still using in the system. So I really love this amp. This is one of the long-term pieces in our system, and it's not going to be going anywhere. And just to the left of that, we have another long-term piece. This is our U-turn orbit turntable with an Ortofon 2M red cartridge. Now I have gone through some belts on this one and I've replaced the stylus once, but otherwise this has been in the system a long time, probably about 4 years as well. And I do really like this turntable. It's not going to be going anywhere. But that said, we are going to be focusing more on vinyl in 2025, including getting a turntable in sort of the next price bracket. Now we're going to keep the orbit, but we're going to have another turntable, and I've cleared a space for it over on the right here. Now at the moment I've got this vintage Sherwood receiver here. I am doing a video on this at the moment. That'll come out before the end of the year. I like to do one vintage hi-fi video a year, and this is going to be the one for 2024. But as soon as that's done, we'll clear this spot out, and then we'll be putting a new turntable, TBD, in this spot next year. And then right to the left of that, we did upgrade our 10-year-old Apple TV with a new one this year as a streamer. It works really well. If you're using an older Apple TV, I definitely would recommend upgrading to a newer one if you haven't done so already. So if we move back over here to the left, so we do still have our Projects Phonobox DC phono preamp. We're going to keep that as well, but we are going to be exploring some other preamps, phono preamps, in the coming year. And then we have our Chord Mojo 2 portable DAC amp, which I really love. I did a video on this earlier this year. If you haven't seen that, I'll include a link in the description below. But ever since I used it, I like it a lot better than any of the other DACs I've been using, so I've just kind of been swapping this from system to system and using it as my all-purpose DAC. Now I think in this coming year we may try out one other DAC that I've been wanting to try out for a long time, but otherwise we're going to be sticking with the Mojo 2. And then in the center we have our solid state amplification. So I've got my Saga preamp and my Vidar power amp. Love both of those. Those are not going to be going anywhere. I do have this Geshelli J2 still in the system as a backup DAC, and it is still my favorite sub $300 DAC, but it really can't compete with the Mojo, so it's really just here as a backup. And then we have our long-term Mitsubishi receiver, which I really only use it as a tuner because it has an excellent tuner section in it. I may eventually be replacing it with a dedicated tuner, but the problem I've had so far is just the ones that I'm interested in are either very hard to find, vintage ones on eBay, or they're just very expensive. So eventually we may replace this as a tuner, but in the meantime it works great as a tuner, so we're just keeping it in the system. And then this month it's coming in handy just to do as a comparison with another vintage solid state amplifier, the Sherwood. So we'll be comparing these two in the upcoming video as well. And then over on our right, I still have my Oppo Blu-ray player. I mostly just use this for playing Blu-rays. And for music, the occasional SACD. I don't have that many in my collection, but I do occasionally play those, and for those I'll use the Oppo. And then for CDs, we've got my Rotel. This is a CD11 tribute. I did a video on, I think last year. Great CD player. Ever since I got the Mojo 2, I've mostly been using it as a transport because that is a better DAC than the one that's built into this, but I still recommend this as a CD player. And then last year I also did a video on this Nakamichi 480 cassette deck. I don't play cassettes a lot, but when I do, this deck is the best sounding one I have currently. It's in excellent shape, and it definitely fits the bill. So we're going to keep that around. I do collect old cassette decks. I have some that need to be repaired. There's other ones I want to get. So there'll be more cassette decks in the future. Maybe not in 2025, we'll see. But for now, this more than meets my cassette needs. And then for speakers, we've got our Triangle Bro 3s. Now I did do a video on this as well this year, so I'll include that in the description below if you want to check it out. These are currently my favorite speakers for listening to my solid state system when I really just want to enjoy listening to it. Now that being said, I do still have my KEF LS50s. I love those speakers too, and I use those when I'm listening to truly audiophile recordings or when I'm doing reviews, because they're just really great at hearing what's going on in the electronics without sort of adding their own coloration. So the LS50s are not going anywhere, but I'd say that just when I'm relaxing and listening to music with a solid state system, I tend to use these triangles. Now for the tube amp, the triangles work all right, but I actually still prefer my Klipsch RP600M Mark IIs. Now I did do a video on those this year as well, early in the year. So I'll include a link to that one as well. Those are some really great dynamic, super sensitive speakers that work great with the tube amp. And I really like those speakers just in general. They're also great with the solid state. So yeah, all three of these speakers, the Triangles, the Klipsch, and the LS50s, we're going to keep those around for the long haul. And again, that's one of the nice things about using bookshelf speakers. It's real easy when you're in the mood, or if you're just listening to something different and you want a particular speaker, you just swap them in. It takes 2 seconds. It's no big deal. So just to the left of the speakers here, we have my vintage Marantz 6350Q turntable, which it works. It has some intermittent problems, but also it just doesn't sound as good as it did back in the day. So I may bring this in 2025 to have it professionally serviced to see if we can get it back to its glory days. That's not going to be the main focus of 2025. We're going to get a new turntable and some new phono preamps to try out. But if we can squeeze in this vintage Marantz, that would be really cool, and we'll try to do that as well. Just to the left of that, I have my HiFiMan Sendera headphones. These are my favorite open back headphones at the moment, and I use them a lot. So I keep them right next here to my audio desk. So this hasn't changed too much in the last year. So we still got our ELAC B5 speakers, and we have an Emotiva A10 amplifier, which works pretty well. And then, as I mentioned, we use the Mojo 2. There's some cords here to plug it in when I'm listening to sound through this system. But right now, the Mojo 2 is in the main system. But I may be looking at trying out some other small amplifiers to see if something may work out better here. And I have some other systems in the house as well where we may do that. So one of the things is I did invest in some new camera equipment this year, so we're going to be trying that out in our videos next year and hopefully improving the look and feel of the videos. And then this last year I did also get one more of these vintage crates for storing cassettes on the wall. So I've been able to get most of my cassettes up here now. I think I actually still have a couple of shoe boxes of cassettes in the closet that I haven't put up yet, but it's nice to have these out here, all this vintage stuff, including things that bands I played in, couple 2-3 decades ago when I want to listen to that stuff. It's nice to have it here to hand, and then I can play it in the Nakamichi cassette that we looked at earlier. So that's cool to have. But other than that, yeah, we've made some pretty significant advances in the system this year in terms of different speakers we can use and our DAC. And we did some tube rolling, which was great. Next year we'll be focused more on the vinyl side. But that's it for now, guys. Have a great holidays, and thank you very much for watching.